I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is the February 4th regular Board of Education meeting. And the first item on the agenda is the resuscitation of the vision statement. And that is that every school will be a thriving school that prepares every student to graduate from high school, college, career, and community ready. The second item on our agenda is the motion to approve the minutes dated August 27th, 2018. And I will move that the Board of Education approve the minutes from the regular meeting dated August 27th, 2018.
Second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have a number of minutes to approve, and so I will move that the Board of Education approve the minutes from the regular board meeting dated September 24th, 2018. Okay, Ahmad, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 7-0. I move to approve the minutes from the regular board meeting dated October 29th, 2018.
Second.
Okay, Ahmad, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
That passes 7-0. And I will move that the Board of Education approve the minutes from the regular board meeting dated November 26, 2018. I'm sorry, November 26, 2018.
Second.
Okay, Ahmad, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
That passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda is our public appearances. And so just I'll read the procedures for our public appearances. At all regular and special board meetings, committee meetings, and public hearings, a speaker will have up to 3 minutes. Extension may be granted by approval of the board or committee. Registrations will continue until the meeting is called to order, and appearances after this point will not be allowed. So we do have apparently 15 public appearances this evening. We have made some improvements to the board protocols to ensure that the meeting runs smoothly. I want to thank you all for signing up in the front hall. Thank you for helping us keep our aisles clear to ensure safety, and thank you for helping us ensure that every speaker has an opportunity to make their comments. We also want to remind you that because of clear feedback regarding mispronunciation of names, and we apologize for any time that has happened in the past, we are using a new system whereby each speaker can introduce themselves. Speakers are welcome to speak on any topic at a regular board meeting, but we would like the speakers and audience to know that board action and conversation is limited to the items on our agenda, which means members of the board will not be able to engage in conversation with the speakers. We are here to listen carefully. We take your comments into account in our decision making and will follow up with you where appropriate. Each speaker is given up to 3 minutes to speak. You must be registered to speak and cannot give your remaining time to someone else. The lighting system will turn yellow and then red, so you will know when it is time to wrap up. If you've gone over your time, I will ask you to immediately wrap up your comments. Speakers who require language interpretation support in order to speak to the board will be given up to 6 minutes to speak, which should generally provide sufficient time for the interpreter to convey the speaker's message. Individuals with disabilities who require accommodations in order to register and speak to the board will be granted such accommodation upon request. Other extensions may be granted only by approval of the board. Thank you again for participating in our meeting tonight. Tonight we have 15 speakers signed up for public comment, and we will start with speaker 1. We would appreciate if the next in line make your way down either of the aisles toward the front and wait by the stairs until it is your turn to speak. And please be sure to introduce yourself.
Hello, this is Tony Wood, and the reason that I'm talking in front of the board is...
Would you mind talking a little bit more into the microphone? You might have to lift it up a little.
Hold on. Is that better?
That's
great.
great.
Let me kneel down a little bit. All right, how's that? The reason I'm coming to talk with you tonight is on behalf of a petition by Swan Creek. We're a neighborhood in Fitchburg that was carved out from the Oregon School District back in 2002 as part of a swap and carved into the Madison School District. Since then, there's been a lot of developments. Right now, we are surrounded on all sides by the Oregon School District. There's a lot of intense development going on, and also Oregon is building an elementary school a mile from our neighborhood. I appreciate and understand the concerns about property tax base. So really the intent of at least what I want to convey is that we've had a successful petition drive, and if there are talks going on with the Oregon School District about trying to get a concurrent border, especially with all the development that's going on the south side of Fitchburg, you're not going to have qualms from our neighborhood in general. I mean, there's a lot of duplication of services as well. Right now, both school systems are sending buses to our neighborhood and have been for years. There's a bit of a diaspora within our neighborhood because people are going to all different schools, even within both school systems. So there's also a sense of community. And that, really from my standpoint, I think that there might be an opportunity that would make sense for both school districts. And again, I'm certainly not going to think that the Madison School District is certainly not going to give up the property base of 300 homes and 100 condos and a number of apartment buildings. That's certainly not what I'm looking for. I'm really hoping that the other speakers will be talking on behalf tonight, but I want to really convey my thought process is that we are very much for any type of dialogue that you might have with the superintendent and the school board of Oregon to look for a viable solution that makes sense as far as a boundary between the school systems. And that's my statement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, do you want me to wait for him to restart the clock there? There we go.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for having me this evening. My name is Josh Korick, and I'll be concise and to the point. I have to get home so my wife can watch The Bachelor, so we'll stay under the 3-minute mark here. So I've lived in Swan Creek for a while, married with 3 kids, 2 of which are school age. Those 2 kids were open enrolled and currently go to Prairie View in Oregon, just for what that's worth. And we have our 3rd child who will be of school age in a couple of years as well. Just want to make the point, most of the kids, we got 150 school-age kids in our community, and the majority of them right now choose to open enroll or go to private schools from within our area. 70 of the 150 currently go to Madison. 60 of those kids, including my own kids, choose to open enroll and go to another public school, and 20 of them go to private schools outside of that. So the majority of them choose to leave the community to go to an alternative school system. Our community, by a map, if you've not seen this, is basically an island surrounded by Oregon and all the panther pride and everything else that comes with it. As you may know or not know, we were part of a land swap with a grocery store in the area over there and so forth. So we have an elementary school coming up that's being built a mile down the road from my house and many other people, some folks speaking here tonight. That's Oregon. And so for these merits and others which you'll hear about this evening, we would strongly encourage you to open up a dialogue, be considered to the idea, talking to the superintendent with Oregon, and the consideration of removing this island mentality and letting us be absorbed back in to Oregon as we once were. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sarah Bell, and I also live in Swan Creek neighborhood. And
Can you pull the mic to
I'm sorry, yes.
Get it real close. Thank you.
Should I start over?
Pardon me?
Should I start over then?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Sarah, and I am part of the Swan Creek neighborhood as well, and I support our petition. Like the prior speaker was talking about, our if you've looked at a map of Oregon, we are literally an island in the middle of all of Oregon District is surrounding us. And my kids currently do go to Oregon. I think the swap that they were talking about was trying to give our children to get to go to Madison schools, and I just don't think that it worked. I think they were trying to get us to go to Madison schools, and almost everyone in our neighborhood has opted out of that by private schools and otherwise. So I would urge you to let us be released from the Madison School District and be absorbed back into the Oregon School District. My kids play sports in Oregon. They go to swimming lessons in Oregon. They do, all of their friends are in Oregon, just about. So I would want to be more part of that community by where we live as well. So I think that's about all I was going to say. Thank you for serving on the district board.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is also Sarah. I'm Sarah Dow. I also live in the Swan Creek neighborhood. I have 2 small children. They're not quite school age yet, but my husband and I have considered, when looking at the map, that all of our kids' friends will be potentially going to the Oregon School District. Again, as many people have mentioned, that the map, when you look at it, every neighborhood that surrounds ours is part of the Oregon School District. Our child would have to ride a bus a considerable length of time to go to school, and our kids would be of school age when the new school opens up a mile down the road. So it's very important to us that our kids, that our neighbors and their friends on our block are in the same school that they are, and that they are being transported to a school that's nearby and not spending a lot of time on the bus. So if there's a school nearby, that's where we would like them to be able to go. Thank you so much for your time and considering our petition.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Michael Trepanier. To no surprise, I'm from the Swan Creek neighborhood. So I signed the petition. I have one of the worst signatures that I know on the planet, so I'm here to authenticate in person that I live on 5200 T-Berry Lane. So if you're looking for that signature that you can't understand, that's probably me. So I'm here to authenticate, and for all the same reasons as all the prior speakers, landlocked, land swap, elementary school, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Next one, Barbara. Okay.
Hello, I'm Kevin Fulser. I'm also from the Swan Creek neighborhood. I moved in about 2 years ago. I'm a CPA in the area. And similar to the previous points, my future theoretical children would like the opportunity to go to, the 1 mile away school, potentially have the opportunity to walk or bike there, which is what I did my whole life when I lived in Appleton, Wisconsin. Builds a lot of independence. Also is great for the parents as well. So that would be great. Also from the CPA side of me, for the tax base perspective, there's a neighborhood right across the street from us that is in the Oregon School District, as alluded to.
That would be great. Also from the CPA side of me, for the tax base perspective, there's a neighborhood right across the street from us
that sounds really good.
In the Oregon School District, as alluded to.
I wonder who that guy is.
It was so good we wanted to hear it twice.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been told you're supposed to listen to yourself.
Sorry, that was me, I think.
Thank you, Dean.
Okay. Sorry about that. Would you be happy?
I was trying to make him louder so he could speak closer into the mic. That helped me.
Okay, we'll try that.
Sounds great. I'm even closer now.
Yeah.
All right, I'll continue right along. So from that CPA side of me, there's a neighborhood right across the street, and that area is part of the Oregon schools. And right now, our neighborhood would not So in terms of just property values overall, that's potentially a detriment to our neighborhood in the fact that we don't have access to a school 1 mile away from us and having to drive, potentially bringing that tax base and property values down in our area. But mainly it's a location thing. I just had to throw in the little CPA side of me as well. So definitely appreciate your time. Thanks for serving very much on the school board. And if you can, again, I support the petition to return us to the Oregon School District. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is E.G. Nadeau, and I am not involved with the Swan Creek project. So you get a little change of pace. What I am here to speak on behalf of is this 100% renew resolution that I believe will be coming to the board at its next meeting at the end of February. So you don't have it in front of you now. Is that Dean on the phone there?
It is.
Okay, well, so Dean, I believe, is going to introduce it prior to the next board meeting. But in any case, I'm very much in favor of the resolution. All of my kids went to school in the Madison School District. They are now in their 40s, and I have a grandkid who's at Lowell now. But that's just to give my creds, I guess. So one of the neatest things about this resolution, that's Dean again, right? One of the neatest things about this resolution is that it will, in the long term, save the school district money by being more efficient with your use of energy, by using solar and wind and battery storage, which is not mentioned specifically in the resolution. You will actually use less money for energy than you do now. And if you finance the thing properly, you can start saving that money as soon as you start introducing the renewable plan. Of course, part of our resolution also is that you hire a professional to help you with a renewable plan. And again, I think it's a really smart move to make by the school district, and I hope you consider it favorably. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your service as school board members. Since I only have 3 minutes, I will just list the reasons why Swan Creek should be returned to Oregon. First, the percentage of students in our neighborhood actually enrolled in Madison is less than 50%. From the Madison Third Friday enrollment count, in 2017, there were 90 students enrolled in Madison, and 50 students open enrolled out, and about 20 plus private school homeschool students. But in 2018, the number of students enrolled in Madison decreased to 71 students. The number of open enrolled increased to 60, and still 20 plus private homeschool students. That means only 47% of students in our neighborhood actually attend a Madison school 4K through 12th grade. And this number is going to become even less once Oregon builds that new elementary school right next to us and a middle school in the future. So then at what point does it make sense to return us to Oregon when only 40% of the students attend Madison? 30? 20? We are not contiguous with any Madison neighborhood. As you see on that map, we are literally surrounded by the Oregon School District. Our children play with their friends in Oregon. We play in the Oregon sports leagues, but we live in a different district. Number 3, 145 out of 185 million of property owners signed our petition. Right here. Only about 5% chose no. There are approximately, I would estimate, 10 to 15 students who wish to continue in the Madison School District. Number 4, Swan Creek had been part of the Oregon School District since 1958. One of our next speakers, our city alderman, Aaron Richardson, and mayoral candidate, is also in favor of it. Number 6, According to the agreement, the reason why Swan Creek was switched was to increase the number of students attending Madison and to give commercial property value to Oregon. But the terms of that agreement have never been fulfilled. Madison did not gain a substantial number of students, and instead, Oregon got the property value and the students. Number 7, Madison has overcrowding. You will need to go to referendum to renovate your 4 high schools and build 2 new elementary schools. Returning commercial property value to Madison will help in this endeavor and secure more yes votes. Finally, we have kept Madison in the loop since May. I have been completely transparent. I've offered to meet with anybody at any time, and I'm yet to hear one good reason why we should not be returned to Oregon. Thank you very much for your time and your service.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Beth Esser, and I am a parent of 2 students in MMSD at Nuestro Mundo, and I also work at West High School. I'm here tonight to express my desire and support for the Board of Education and School District to adopt a resolution that commits the district to 100% renewable energy and develops a green climate initiative plan. At the request of Dean, I did bring copies of the resolution, and I hope you have received them. The district is doing the most important work in the community, preparing our children for the future, and MMSD has been working fervently to address many important concerns in our community and implementing the latest strategic framework. What cannot be left out of that vision, however, is how climate change will impact the life of every single student in our district. In October, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change released a sobering report detailing the importance of keeping warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, and that we need to cut carbon pollution by 45% in the next 12 years to stay on track to do so. That's right, we have 12 years to make significant changes so that our children can graduate college, career, and community ready in a world that is not ravaged by the most damaging impacts of climate change. The scientists of the report point out it is technically feasible to make these emission reductions, but we need the political willpower to do so. I think we know that this type of leadership is not going to be coming to us anytime soon nationally, so it's more important than ever for our local leaders to step up and do all that we can to make the changes in our society to combat climate change. I believe that the district's strategic framework goals and working to address climate change are intertwined. Without addressing climate change and the myriad of ways it can impact our youth, the district will not be fulfilling its commitment to all of our students. I urge the board to adopt a 100% renewable energy resolution as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Katya Wanish, and I'm a senior at Madison West High School. My 9th grade biology teacher sparked my interest in climate change after teaching us how human interactions are negatively impacting the climate. Data revealed at COP24, an international climate conference, says we have 12 years to make a difference or face a climate disaster. I believe that MMSD must obtain 100% renewable energy and increase the quality of our students' futures. After all, as a young person, I will suffer the most damaging future impacts of climate change. This commitment to going green will demonstrate MMSD's focus on practicing what they teach, and renewable energy grids can provide a valuable educational experience for students. Furthermore, installing renewable energy will decrease electricity bills and allow valuable monetary resources to be devoted to students in the classroom. Renewable energy can demonstrate MMSD's commitment to their students' futures, decrease energy bills, and make Madison schools a model of sustainability for other districts to replicate. Thank you.
Thank you. I would ask Dean and Kate if you can mute. There is noise coming through the microphone. Thank you. Excuse me.
Hello, I am Ella, and I'm a junior at Madison West High School. Over my past few years as an MMSD student, I've been fortunate to witness very dedicated groups of students focused on making our schools more sustainable, and recently I have been lucky enough to join them. Currently in our schools, there are students of all backgrounds taking interest in making our schools more sustainable. In my school alone, I can see how driven students are to be an advocate for the earth so not only our generation can be happy, but future generations as well. Students in MMSD have shown great maturity and passion for protecting our environment and have put in very hard work towards the cause. For MMSD to go 100% renewable would be showing MMSD students that you have recognized their work and are willing to step up and show them and join them as leaders in a community and global effort. Thank you so much for hearing me.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Isabella Spitznagel, and I'm a junior at West High School. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. As my friends and fellow advocates have already stated before me, I believe the MMSD school district should convert to 100% renewable energy. We live in an age where we are already seeing the harsh effects of climate change. Just last week, 4 days of school were canceled due to the raging cold weather. The polar vortex moved south as a direct result of melting ice in the North Pole. We as a school district could make a difference by switching to renewable energy. Not only could we help the beautiful world around us, we could also open up educational opportunities and financially save. By using renewable energy, we can help prevent coal, oil, and other harmful greenhouse gases from damaging the planet. Renewable energy is vital for the future. Let the MMSD school district become a trailblazer, leading the way for many more to follow. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm also here to talk about renewable energy in the schools. My name is Claire Gervais. Thank you for the opportunity for talking tonight. I'm a physician in family medicine with the UW Health, and I'm a co-president for Wisconsin Environmental Health Network, a member of Physicians for Social Responsibility, and active member of the Sierra Club. I'm also a parent of 2 kids that have been through MMSD. I care for a broad spectrum of citizens of all ages, including children, adults with asthma, heart disease, strokes, and cancers. You may wonder why, as a doctor, I care so much about renewable energy for schools. We're currently experiencing a climate crisis. 97% of climate scientists agree that climate change is happening now and is caused by human activity. Just this last week, we experienced a weather pattern due to climate change. The polar vortex brought severe cold to Wisconsin, causing schools to close, and worse yet, a number of cold injuries and deaths. Last summer, we saw record-setting flooding and rain in Wisconsin. As a community member and physician, I saw the heartbreak of people losing their family members, homes, and possessions, suffering more mold allergies, and experiencing cleanup-related injuries. In both cases, people have been temporarily or permanently displaced from their homes, businesses, healthcare facilities, and universities due to flood damage. Not only are we experiencing climate change, we can connect the cause of climate change to our local community. In Madison, we rely on MG&E for most of our energy. As of 2016, almost 50% of this energy was from coal, while another 20% came from gas and oil. As you're aware, climate change is a significant consequence of burning these fossil fuels, causing numerous health effects, including heat injuries, increased vector-borne diseases, including West Nile and Zika viruses, increased asthma and allergies, and mental health issues due to displacement of populations. Many Madisonians don't realize that though the Blount Street coal plant converted to natural gas many years ago, the coal plants where MG&E gets most of its energy are in other communities, Portage and Oak Creek, south of Milwaukee. Producing and burning coal in particular is linked to respiratory problems, increased heart attacks, strokes, cancer, developmental and neurologic problems. Health effects are caused by exposure to soot and smog, which comes from combustion of coal, releasing fine particles and a number of other toxic substances. Research shows more and more links between these hazardous substances and human health. In fact, just last year, there was an article published in JAMA relating prenatal exposure to particulate matter and air pollution to fetal thyroid function. Climate change is affecting people across the globe, but especially those most vulnerable, children, the elderly, those of low socioeconomic class. Just a little bit.
Please finish up.
Okay. Some of the dirtiest coal plants are located in some of our largest metropolitan areas, like the Oak Creek plant. Renewable energy is clean energy. It's not an entirely new concept for schools to take this on and lead communities on climate change education and innovation through commitment to clean, renewable energy. Though we may not know every aspect of how to reach that goal, it's essential that the district set a goal of 100% renewable energy by 2040 and ensure that commitment. By acting now, we'll create a clean energy future for our children and grandchildren.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Aaron Richardson. I sit on the City Council in Fitchburg, and I'm here, I think I'm the last person to talk about Swan Creek. And I am here today as the representative of this area, and I really want to come and, like myself, I'm sure that you've seen lots of things that in hindsight were kind of short-sighted decisions. And the decision to move Swan Creek to the Madison District was really what I feel is a short-sighted decision at the time. I know that when you look at, as someone mentioned earlier, the Oregon District building an elementary school about a mile away from this neighborhood, that's because that's really the heart of where a lot of Oregon students live. You don't build elementary schools like you know on the edge of a neighborhood, on the edge of your attendance area. That's really the heart of where you are. And I think if you look at the attendance map and you see this island kind of in the middle of nowhere almost of the Madison District, you know, I think that's something that you would want to clean up. And I know that I was looking through a plan document that you have online that listed one of your goals as the desire to clean up your boundaries. And I really feel that this might be the most obvious example of an area where you could do that and you could clean up that boundary and really return this neighborhood back to the Oregon District where it was originally and probably should have stayed at all times. As hopefully the next mayor of Fitchburg, anything that I can do to help out in this process and to help your decision making, I'm happy to do. Please let me know, and I'd be happy to help you out with anything I can. Thank you.
Thank you. That ends our public announcements and public appearances. And so next is the board president's announcements. And we have a number of announcements this week, busy month in February. So first is the Wisconsin Adult School Crossing Guard Recognition Week. Throughout the week of January 14th, Wisconsin Adult School Crossing Guard Recognition Week, communities across Wisconsin recognize the selfless efforts of those who serve as school crossing guards. The Madison Police Department currently employs and assigns crossing guards to about 65 different intersections throughout our attendance area. The board thanks all of our school crossing guards who help thousands of our students get to and from school safely each day through rain, snow, or shine. The next announcement is with regards to the Retired and Senior Volunteer Program, RSVP, and MSCR teaming up to celebrate and donate to Girls Inc. The RSVP program, a nonprofit organization of retired seniors, donated more than 200 handmade winter hats, scarves, and mittens to Girls Inc., an MSCR program for elementary-aged girls. Nearly 200 girls from the program were able to choose their new winter gear while they skated at the Edgewater during the MSCR season-ending celebration that rewards the girls for their hard work. The board recognizes the girls in the program for their hard work, MSCR for organizing and hosting the event, and the retired seniors for creating the heartwarming gifts. The next announcement is with regards to our Shorewood Hills School-Based Leadership Team. Our SBLT student leaders collaborated on a slideshow for teachers to use and to teach about Black history. Our SBLT team student leaders from Shorewood Hills Elementary began collaborating on a slideshow that teachers can use to teach about Black history. These young leaders are building on Malcolm X's quote, "Our history did not begin in chains." During Black History Month in February and throughout the year, schools will be learning about the extraordinary accomplishments of Africans and Black Americans. the board recognizes the SBLT student leaders for their commitment to embody and learn about Black excellence, preparing their school for Black History Month in February. February 4th to the 8th is National School Counseling Week. This week we are also celebrating National School Counseling Week following a proclamation signed by State Superintendent Carolyn Stanford Taylor to honor our school counselors and the tremendous impact they have on our students. As part of our celebration this week, we will be highlighting 2 of our own counselors who went through our Grow Our Own program, West High School's excuse my pronunciation here, Jabaja Gushain, and Cherokee Heights Middle School's Nehemiah Barrett. You can listen to their interviews on our district podcast, MMSD Voices, later this week. And wrapping up our announcements is the announcement regarding Black History Month. We hope you'll join us in celebrating the accomplishments and contributions from the Black community, African Americans in our country, our state, and right here in our school district. Throughout the month, MMSD will be highlighting celebrations and events taking place across the district. Our curriculum and instruction team and MTI's Equity and Diversity Committee have put together a package of resources for schools, including materials for Black History and Black Lives Matter for School Week in Action, which began today and runs through Friday. While we intend to take full advantage celebrating throughout February, we stand committed to the belief that the celebration of Black excellence in history can and will not be encapsulated by a single month. Black history is our history. Keep an eye out in many coming weeks and months as we highlight Black excellence in our own community through stories, podcasts, videos, and more. We are fortunate to have these opportunities to lift up our Black students, families, and staff. We see you and we appreciate you. Thank you. With that, I will turn it over to the superintendent for her announcements and reports.
And if I could have our team join me up on the stage, I'll give them just a minute to get settled, and then we'll get started. I don't know where that came from, actually. There's no food allowed. Thank you. Okay. Welcome, everyone. Yeah, the light is bright. Okay, we will go ahead and get started. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present to the board tonight. As you know, the board will vote later on this evening to accept the recommendations from the Behavior Ad Hoc Committee. After a very thorough 6-month review of where we've been, where we are, and where we want to go next, I want to take this opportunity to thank the staff members who work to support our ad hoc committee, who are all sitting here at the stage today. We've got Jay Affoldt. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Quinn. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Cynthia, and thank you, Patrice. Really appreciate all of the work, the time, going above and beyond your daily jobs to support us in this system-wide work. I also want to thank Gloria as the head of the ad hoc committee, James and Kate, who I also know contribute substantial time. Sorry, I don't know why I'm stuttering. Substantial time to this incredibly important work. We're not going to be talking about the ad hoc committee recommendations now, but we want to talk to you about why we support them. What we're, and me personally, what we're mostly excited about is the continued commitment to staying the course. We have learned a lot. We're making key adjustments, investments, improvements, which you'll see in those recommendations later in this meeting. But the school districts and systems generally don't necessarily stick with it when things become hard, right? It's easy not to.
And we just want to use this little bit of time with you to extend our deep appreciation really to the school board and everyone who has participated in this effort in any way, shape, or form. Our commitment to creating restorative communities as opposed to punitive ones, our commitment to progressive discipline as opposed to zero tolerance, I'm very proud of that as the leader of the school district. As I mentioned, we've learned a lot over the last 5-ish years. And we wanted to say a little bit about what we think we've learned that this is about. When we entered into this work, originally, I think we framed it as an attempt to reduce exclusionary practice, which is still true, but we've learned that it is about so much more. At its core, it is about building relationships. I think the board will remember this picture from last fall. We had a group of young people, our African American Student Advisory Group and the MSAN group of students at that time. They came to talk to us about their experience and their recommendations, and they were all about the importance of building trusting and authentic relationships in classrooms between teachers and students, but between students as well. How do you build classroom communities? We knew, and they told us, that this was important because students can't engage in deep and rich learning experiences which require productive struggle if they don't feel safe and a sense of belonging in the classroom. We also think it's about teaching and learning, and I'll let Sarah talk a little bit about that.
Yes. So the heart, let me just scooch this up. The heart of this plan, it's called the Behavior Education Plan. So the heart of the plan is about education. And I think it's important to think of this broadly. We look to some leaders and in the field that are talking about the National Commission on Social, Emotional, and Academic Development, this need for academic belonging, that we deserve investment and rigor. So when we think about the behavior education plan, we think about those 5 pages of the grid. The plan is 30 pages. Those other 25 pages are what point us to being centered on instruction and rigor and educating both academic content and science and math and literacy content, but also educating when we make a mistake, when harm needs to be repaired, when the community needs to be rebuilt. We turn to the same skills and the same beliefs and values that we hold as educators to teach and instruct around who it is we want to be together. And so we feel like it's essential to remember this is both in service of academic learning and social emotional growth, and that's the full robust behavior education plan.
I'm just coming in close.
Yeah, there you go, Patrice.
All right.
Lean in.
We've been together a while. We're close
Yeah,
now.
that's right.
So the other piece is it's a lot about it's about our mindsets and a lot of focusing on shifting those mindsets, whether it's through restorative practices or culturally relevant teaching, and just making sure that we're not getting in these negative cycles that can really be dictated by interpretation and also by stereotypes and things like that. And that comes with building community and understanding and knowing each other well. And when we don't have those things and we're not meeting each other's needs and we're not really able to understand each other, that's when we become really reactive and we don't focus on teaching and learning like Sarah was talking about, and we're not able to continue in a positive way.
So admittedly, this is hard work and it's complex work, and there's no one simple solution to this. The National Association of School Psychologists recently expressed concern over recent narratives in the media regarding school safety and supportive schools. And their framework really supports our approach, and it's probably best summarized by a quote, and I'll read it here, that efforts to improve school climate, safety, and learning are not separate endeavors. They must be designed, funded, and implemented as comprehensive school-wide approach that facilitates interdisciplinary collaboration and builds on a multi-layer system of supports. So what we really appreciate about this is that it's a commitment to mental health, social emotional learning, and effective foundational systems.
Not only is this complex, but we're also learning ourselves along the way, and the field of best practices continues to shift and change. If we think just simply about restorative justice and how much it has changed and evolved in the last 5 years, it's complicated our ability to implement things effectively. We recognize, having listened into primarily our school-based teams that our committee met with for case studies, hearing their journey to implement core practices. And we believe very strongly that these 4 foundational practices need to sort of ground the new behavior plan. And putting these 4 components in place in an integrated way so that in every classroom, in every hallway, in every cafeteria, every school building, students are receiving the support that they need to be successful. These 4 practices will continue to ground the work that we do forward and will support schools in developing them.
Yeah, and finally, in setting the why, I think it's really important to come back to how evolutionary this process is. We've heard many narratives from many people about the impact that this behavior education plan has had on their experience in the district. These narratives offer a rich and deep dialogue that has guided our work, shaped our beliefs, and transformed our thinking. And we want to continue that. And we think our stakeholders do too. There is a deep desire to continue the conversation, to learn more, to go into the work, and to examine the intersection of culture, race, teaching, and discipline. Lastly, I'll just say included in this intersection is the way that the stories both shape and support the quantitative data. Certainly we have climate data, as you see on the screen. We measure things in suspensions, behavior incidents, interventions, expulsions, but those qualitative stories are really what drive our work. The slide up here certainly represents the numbers that back up improvement. And they look at how schools like East, Wright, Orchard Ridge are developing and refining practices. Developing and refining those practices and strategies have a clear impact on school communities. The feedback and numbers that you see on the screen provide the clarity with this point. Schools with emergent practices and foundational systems actualize our guiding principles and do make schools safer.
And we also thought it was worth sharing with you that not only are we inspired and motivated by a recommitment to this restorative and progressive approach, but there are school districts and certainly professional organizations all over this country who do as well, including the National Association of School Psychologists, who recently released a statement recommitting themselves to this approach, which we think is wonderful. As I mentioned, the recommendations that Gloria and the ad hoc will be offering later today, I think not only recommit, but further invest in strategies that we know have great potential to make our schools and classrooms a safe, supportive, and thriving places that we know they can and should be. That includes investments in supporting those foundational practices and school-wide systems, investments in mental health supports and resources for students with intensive needs, and investments in restorative culture and mindsets. That is an aggressive commitment going into next year, but a multi-year commitment to make sure that this work takes hold in meaningful ways over time. And last, which to say it one more time, we really wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to thank the board for your recommitment. It means the world to us. This work is challenging us in ways that we maybe never anticipated, but are beautiful, right? There's beauty in the challenge. And we're really excited about where we're going next. So with that, I'll just pass it to you, Mary. If you have questions for us, we'll certainly take them, or comments.
Yeah, board members, do you have questions? Yeah, TJ.
first I want to affirm that I can only speak for one board member, but I think that as the superintendent phrased it earlier, affirming that the commitment to moving to educational from punitive, moving from exclusionary to inclusionary work around behavior is something that I can, that my commitment is strong. The, you know, we've been challenged by it, as more than one said, but the commitment to those directions, it remains strong. And some of it because we've seen some successes, and some of it just because it's the right thing, or they are the right things to do. I guess I just want to, and you know, the devil's always in the details, but even how you present the overview and this kind of big level one matters a lot as how the details get done. And I'm looking at slide 7, and one of the last slides speaks of foundational practices, and the foundational practices here. And very respectful of both what Cynthia and Sarah said about systems and the interrelationship of these things. But the voices from the schools I hear, that we have, clearly we have work to do with all 4 of these things on slide 7. Yeah. But the one that to me seems most pressing is the positive support and interventions. And I guess I just wanted to kind of like state and I would like to see an emphasis there, a stronger emphasis there, and not to throw out the other ones, because the other ones, as you said, the interactions of these are all very important. But if we look at, you know, where's the fire, and where's the fire extinguisher, and that's kind of what I hear. So,
thank you, TJ.
Add that.
Nikki?
One, excellent work, and I thank everyone for it. 2, my only concern is the use of education and discipline. A lot of times when we look at behavior, sometimes it is discipline, and sometimes it's behavior that can't be helped. And I just want to reaffirm that sometimes these behavior referrals, or these levels, they might not be able to stop the behavior, that it's not a choice, that it's an action that can't be stopped is my one thing. The other issue, I've always said I wanted the behavior education plan to focus more on intervention than punishment, because it was almost 70 pages of punishment with 8 pages of intervention. 72, excuse me. Kelly, thank you. I really actually appreciate that.
I think you're going to like the new version.
Because that's important. Because if you don't learn, I work in juvenile justice. If we don't teach people in childhood, they're not going to learn in adulthood. They're going to just keep repeating. And if we just punish away absolutely everything, then they won't succeed. And then just one other question. Has the National Education Association ever come out with any guidelines regarding behavior education plans and that?
That's a really good question. Has NEA come out with anything that you guys know off the top of my head? I don't
Nothing that we've come across yet.
Yeah.
But we'll certainly continue to explore.
Absolutely, thank you.
That would be nice.
Okay, well, it looks like we don't have any additional questions from the board. Just, I want to thank you all for your work, Gloria for chairing the committee, and Kate and James for your participation. I know that the board is committed to this work and really wants to support this in a way that's necessary, whether it's through adoption and changes in policy, or whether it's additional resources to be able to support the work that needs to happen to actually implement this in a way where students will learn, as you say, Sarah. Thank you very much. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
This is Kate, and I just wanted to say thank you again. I mean, I'm on crushes tonight, which is why I'm not there. But I wish I could have been there. I was really incredibly impressed by all of your commitment, dedication, inquisitiveness, So I feel really, really excited about some of the work coming out of this ad hoc, and very, very supportive of it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, team. Good work.
Jen, are there any other superintendent items?
No, there are not. Don't tempt me.
Okay,
I'm
we'll move right on then. Okay, the next item is a report on the items that proceeded through instruction work group held January 7th, 2019. So, Dean, are you able to report on those items?
Yeah, I'm good. So in January, in middle of winter, we again talked about summer school, and there were some changes that were discussed that will be voted on today. So I think we're all prepared and heard enough, and we're ready to move forward on that. Then, just to remind again, as Superintendent mentioned, we'll be voting on accepting the BEP ad hoc report, which will then follow up with implementing it at another meeting. So this is just accepting the report that we're voting on. Add to that clarity, if anyone needs any more clarity on that, go ahead and bring it up. So next meeting, which is next week, I think it's a pretty important one, and I really urge everybody to read the material thoroughly. It will be report back to us on the special ed, ELL, and advanced learner progress, and how we're going to proceed with that. So real important issues that we're going to be discussing. Come prepared, because I'm not going to cut anybody off. We're going to talk as long as we need to on this, so that people can get all their thoughts in, and questions answered. And some of us may want to follow TJ's lead, how he often sends questions email prior to the meeting, so that the presenters will have a chance to review some of this stuff, and they can also be prepared for your questions after you review it. So that's what's up for next week.
Great, thank you, Dean. TJ does have a question.
Not a question, just for those following along at home, the agenda says the meeting will be held February 4th. Obviously, that's not true. It'll be February 11th.
Thank you for the clarification.
And feel better, Dean.
I'm sorry, I didn't. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry if I missed something, but that's cool. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Dean. And the next item on the agenda is the report on items that proceeded through the operations work group held on January 14th, 2019. And Kate, I will turn it over to you to report on those items.
Yes. So we covered two different topics during our last operations work group discussion. The first one was a review of our long-range facilities plan, and we got a preview of some of the work that's been going on in terms of what our high school facilities could look like with the help of some outside architects. So that was a good early kind of feedback opportunity for us to share some thoughts on long-range facilities planning. And that work will continue over the course of this year with the next few into our elementary and middle facilities. The other topic was early guidance on budget development and assumptions. That topic will continue basically every month through June. So this was kind of an initial guidance in terms of key assumptions to be built in as we're building out the budget for next year. Our next meeting is February 11th, and that will, again, continue the budget development discussions, in particular around some of our priority areas, staffing and special ed allocations, and then there's a couple of other smaller discrete topics on the agenda.
Okay, and just a reminder that that meeting is pushed back a week because of all of our meetings being pushed back because of last Monday, so that will be the 18th of February. Great. Thank you, Kate. TJ?
Just real quick, I want to thank the people who came here to speak tonight about the renewable energy and the climate change and the need to integrate that into our long-range facilities planning. I have some quibbles with some of the specifics of the resolution, but I think that that was an important reminder, an important series of reminders.
Great.
Yep,
Okay.
agreed.
Okay, our next item on the agenda is the action items that proceeded through the instruction work group held January 7th. So as Dean indicated, we did discuss the summer school program, and so now is the vote to approve that. So I will move that the Board of Education approve the 2019 MMSD summer school model and 2019 budget in the amount of $3,699,753.71 with funding from the 2019-20 summer school operating budget.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yeah, Nikki.
Want to thank the raising of the teacher pay in summer school. I think that's an important step. Just have a couple questions. How many of our sites air conditioned? I couldn't find it.
Oh, I wouldn't know that off the top of my head, but Bree, would you know that? Do you want? 7 of the 18.
Okay. And the only other comment I have is I'm on the reduction of sites. I'm glad that we're using the money for special ed and ELL. I wish, though, we would have phrased it differently because it almost seems like because of them we are closing 2 sites, and I don't think that was ever the intent, but I think that it could come off that way, so I'm just saying possibly rephrasing that in the future.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we tried to emphasize that the same number of seats are available, but I get your point. Thank you, Nikki.
Okay. Imad, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 7-0. The next item are action items that proceeded through the operations work group held on January 14th, 2019. And so I will move that the Board of Education accept the final offer to purchase property on the future, is that Acacia Ridge Development, an 8-acre parcel currently known as the Dom property.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Yeah, teacher.
Oh, I'm sorry, but I was in the wrong place. I'm going to vote for this reluctantly. I think eventually we will need to build a school someplace near this site. I'm not 100% confident this is the right site. And I understand that we're getting it below market value, but by buying this and building this and showing our willingness or intent to build a school in this area, we are greatly increasing the developers' the value of their property. And I think we could have done better. But so I'll be voting reluctantly in favor of this.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Imad, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 7-0. Okay, and then on to our consent agenda. I will move that the Board of Education adopt and approve all the motions set forth in Section 10 of the electronic agenda prepared for the January 28, 2019 regular school board meeting, exactly as said motions are written. By voting affirmatively on this motion, a board member expresses his or her affirmative vote on each of the motions consolidated hereby, subject to any express separations that have been made by any member of the school board. Matt, does that need to be changed for the electronic agenda prepared for the February 4th, 2019 regular board? Okay.
Yep.
So that date is changed to February 4th, 2019. So, are there any separations? TJ?
I don't want to separate 10.8 and 10.17, but before we vote on the full agenda, I'd like to discuss them.
I'm sorry, can you give me those?
10.8 and 10.17, and I would like to separate 10.22. 10.8 is the Connect Ed contract, 10.17 is the Special Education Bilingual Grant, Grow Your Own Grant, and 10.22 is the HR report.
Okay. So you...
I want to ask, I want to have some questions about 10.08 and 10.17 that I'd like to
Okay, so then
ask.
what I'd ask is we discuss those now.
That would be perfect.
Well, let me see if there's any other separations.
Yeah.
Any other separations? Okay, so we have 10.22 as a separation, at least at this point, and then like to have discussion on 10.8 and 10.17.
10.8 is very simple. I just want to know, is this the last of the Joyce Grant? That's...
So the Joyce Grant runs until December 31st of 2019 with potential over a two-year term.
Excuse me.
Hear that?
And the $90,000 here is what is left of unallocated Joyce Grant funding.
So this is a large portion of what is required.
That's why it seemed like that to me, and that's why I was kind of asking. So this is a large portion. There's not much left after this one unless we get a renewal.
Correct.
Thank you. And that's on 1017. Kind of two questions. One is that the memo repeatedly refers to teachers, and I'm not clear whether this grant only supports teachers getting additional credentials or it supports other staff getting initial educator credentials, is the first question.
Well, I know from, let me give this a shot. I don't know who's in the audience to help with this, but I know on the special ed side, TJ, these are teachers who are in emergency licensure right now, who would be getting their initial credential beyond.
But does it support EAs and security assistants and other people getting credentials?
No, I do not believe so.
Okay.
Not this particular grant that we got from DPI.
And that leads to the second question: is this a supplant or supplement?
Oh, Jen's here.
Jen.
Okay. Thank you.
Does
Well,
this?
good. One for one.
Is this?
Can you repeat because
people
no,
in the
and I
audience
don't need
can
to
hear
come
that.
up
Yeah.
as long as you just Jen.
Yeah.
Could you repeat what was?
I think I just said.
I think
Go ahead.
that what the superintendent said was correct. That this supports people who are teaching on 1 year with stipulation licenses, but does not support people who are in other positions in our schools.
Correct. Yeah, that's correct.
And it does not support BRSs being licensed as full educators.
That's correct.
All right. So those needs remain. Mm-hmm. I guess is part of it. And then the second piece was kind of, is this supplementary to our other Grow Your Own funding, or is it supplanting any of, as we budget for the next year?
Yeah, that's a very good question. This is in addition to the funding that's already in our budget for Grow Our Own. Okay. This is above and beyond. It is not supplanting.
All right, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
It's very
Thank
good,
you.
actually.
Thank you.
Okay.
Nikki.
One of the biggest problems I've always had was that number of emergency licensures without any Grow Your Own. I would like SEAs and behavioral assistants and security assistants. I would like them to be included. I know we can't do everything at the first shot. However, I think we need to do something because the emergency licensure issue is quite a large one, and our students need people who are properly licensed.
Yeah, just to quickly explain, I think there is a little confusion about this. We have our Grow Our Own programs, to TJ's earlier point, which are part of, now folded into Forward Madison, which is why Jen is here as the coordinator of that partnership. And we've introduced a new strand into Forward Madison, which is about emergency or 1 year stipulation licenses, which is a new strand, separate programs for separate purposes, all about getting more qualified teachers, certainly in our schools. So they're not in competition with one another, they're working in conjunction with one another.
Just want to, Nikki mentioned EAs and BEAs particularly. I want to, just again include BRSs in this.
I always skip my acronyms wrong and forget one somewhere.
And bilingual resource
specialists.
That's what BRS stands for.
Thank you. All right, Jen.
Thank you.
I did
Thanks,
behavior
Jen.
research support.
Okay, so then what we are going back then to the vote on the consent agenda with the separation of 1022, which is a human resources transaction report. So there has been a motion and a second. Imad, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 7-0. So then with regards to 1022, TJ, do you want to?
Yeah. I've asked repeatedly that a discussion of what's on the Human Resources report and how the board is involved in hiring renewals of contracts, changes of contracts, be placed on an agenda. And instead, we've had numerous iterations of different versions of this which have been sent to the board through our weekly updates, but we haven't had a discussion of this as a board. And I thought that policy 1513 allowed a board member to place something on an agenda for discussion, but we've changed how we're doing this radically without that having happened. So that's kind of number one. Number two is that how we've changed it decreases the transparency. Many of the transactions that used to appear on a public agenda no longer do, which means that in terms of who's resigned and who's been hired in the in what are referred to here as non-contractual positions, and I'm a little confused about that because some of the hires in other areas do have contracts, at least union contracts, and various other things used to be part of the public information that was provided as part of the board agenda, and no longer are. And I understand that things like separations and resignations aren't something that the board has approval power over in any conception, but it is information that I think that should be readily available to the public. And the third point is that our policies, our existing policies, actually require that on resignations. Policy 8011 requires that resignations shall be reported to the superintendent by the Human Resources Department via the board agenda. And this new change puts the resignations in a weekly update. And one of the reasons why we should have public discussions and public transparency is because to make sure we have consistency on these things. So, I'm repeating my request that this be placed on the appropriate agendas. Since it involves policy, that means that it should go through a work group and then come before the full board. And I wrote out a proposal months ago, and it's just sitting there. So that's, and I'll be voting no on this because I don't think it follows our board policy.
If I could comment on that, I'll
Yes,
make
Jen.
sure to talk to Matt and Deirdre and HR about it. If there's something in board policy and you decided at TJ that this is inconsistent with, we'll certainly fix that. And of course, I'll talk with board officers about the request.
Yeah, Nikki.
I will also be voting no on this particular one. The transparency has always been an issue for me, but that's my personal view.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Then I will move that the Board of Education approve the January 2019 Human Resources Transactions Report, items 1 through 9. Is there a second?
Second.
Imad, your advisory vote?
Abstaining.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
No.
That passes 5-2. James, were you pointing at that? Okay. Kate and Dean, just to clarify, I had heard an approval, but can you confirm your vote?
Yeah, I'm an aye.
Okay, Dean?
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
I think I understand TJ's. I'll vote for this one, but I think going forward, he has a real legitimate point that we should change this next time around. But it's an aye for me.
Yeah, and we will follow up with the board if we have not followed policy, we will certainly follow the existing policy and bring any additional items to the board. Okay, so that finishes up the consent agenda. And with that, we move on to other reports to the board. And the first one is the City of Madison Education Committee.
Unfortunately, the City Education Committee did not have quorum. There was supposed to be an action item that stated they want to dissolve the City Education Committee. I am not in favor of said motion. Our next meeting is hopefully February 13th. Please keep your fingers crossed.
Nikki, can you talk a little bit about the process they're contemplating on that?
Yes. What it is it's an action item that is put on there. The committee chair, Matt Fair, I believe it's committee chair, I always get the last names wrong, stated that in 8 years that the committee hasn't met what its promise and potential. And therefore, since we struggle to make quorum and struggle to agree on what we need to focus on, that he feels it's needed to dissolve said committee.
Now, if the committee will vote whether to recommend its own dissolution, and then the Common Council will either dissolve it or not, is that?
That is correct.
And I guess that since this is, there's been a liaison committee or some sort of committee between the board and the Common Council forever. This is an iteration that came in 8 years ago, Matt says.
Yeah.
I guess that I think this relationship is important enough that as a board, we should have a discussion of at least, if not instructing our representatives how to vote, at least making sure that some of our sentiments are shared. I served on the committee for 2 or 3 years, and it went around in a lot of circles for 2 or 3 years, and apparently elsewhere. I'm not sure it necessarily has to, and so I guess that I would ask that. I mean,
do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I guess I make a motion. I make a motion
Yeah.
that the Board of Education requests that the Board of Education requests that the committee not be dissolved prior to the Board of Education having the opportunity to consider recommendations, consider forwarding recommendations to the committee. Is that a motion? I mean, does that kind of?
Yeah.
Are people okay with that?
Yeah. I think it's too important to lose, to be honest.
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe we won't want to make them, but we want to consider making them.
Yeah, I would second that. Imad, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
That passes 7-0.
Thank you.
TJ.
And
Thank
you,
you,
Nikki. Because I wasn't sure what, you hear these rumors and you're like.
Yeah. Imad, Student Senate, can you give us an update on that?
Yes, we've had two meetings since the last regular meeting. During those meetings, I provided an update on the topics that student senators were most interested in, which included pathways, school safety updates, and the climate survey. That also included a further discussion of the roles of our school resource officers. And then we also narrowed down our action plans with regards to the class size committee, the AP and honors committee, facilities committee, and the tech committees. And then for next meeting, we're planning to present our progress in committees to the Student Senate as a whole before gathering more information and finalizing our goals for second semester.
Oh, very busy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Mary, I just talked to Gloria about her attending the next Student Senate because I have to be at the City Education Committee to try it safely.
Okay, great. Good. Okay, and Gloria, the update on the Student Behavior Ad Hoc Committee?
Sure. Most of this has been said already, but so you have the recommendations. We will be accepting those recommendations tonight, but I really want to thank my fellow board members, James and Kate, for their support and their leadership through this process. I want to thank our staff who represented the school district on the subcommittee. They were so influential in sharing their professional experiences and their firsthand knowledge about what's happening out in our schools. Our staff, the perspectives of the voice and the voices was critical when we heard from all the school teams. We heard from different schools, and it was so impactful. The recommendations do point to the need for a continued focus on foundational practices that support teaching and learning, as you shared tonight. Systems of intervention and support with a special focus on mental health supports and additional resources for students with intensive needs, and continued work on shifting mindset and culture, as we know that institutional racism and implicit bias exist and impact our decision making. We've made recommendations in 3 categories, so policy, resources, and implementation. Specifically, you'll see a number of policy recommendations, including a recommendation to revise the plan to make it more user-friendly. We spent a lot of time on that, thanks to Kate, who really pushed us on that. You'll see budget recommendations. These recommendations signal an aggressive, multi-year expansion of the resources and supports needed, with a special focus on mental health and intensive intervention. You'll also see some implementation recommendations that include a focus on restorative practices and social emotional learning. We believe that together these recommendations will have a powerful impact on our ability to effectively implement the plan, leading to more positive outcomes and a more safe and supportive school climate in our schools and classrooms. So in February, the board will take up the rewrite of the policy itself and in the instructional work group, and the board will make related resource decisions as a part of the annual budget process this spring.
Great, thank you, Gloria. And thank you again to our staff and the work of the committee, to your leadership, Gloria. And with that, I will recommend that the Board of Education accept the recommendations from the Student Behavior Ad Hoc Committee relative to the MMSD Behavior Education Plan as set forth in the document prepared for the regular Board of Education meeting dated February 4th, 2019. Any further discussion? Ahmad, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 7-0. Okay. And with that, then we are on to other business, which we do have a number of items that we will be voting on. The first is the MMSD Wellness Advisory Council. And I will move that the Board of Education approve the membership of the MMSD Wellness Advisory Council as set forth in the document prepared for the February 4th, 2019 regular board meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? TJ.
Since we are approving the membership and doing this, Matt, that this would, under open meetings laws, be a governmental body and just confirming that?
Yeah, I think it was always anticipated that those would be open meetings.
And then second, since that's been confirmed, I'd like to request that this be fully integrated into board docs, agendas, and meeting minutes and meeting materials, instead of simply appearing on the weekly, what's it called, Barb? The weekly, yes, the weekly notice. So I'd like to request that, and not a formal motion or vote, but just making the request. And then last, I'd like to thank all the people for serving on it. It's an impressive and good list. So.
Good, thank you. So, Ahmad, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 7-0. The next item is the Administrator Retirement Plan. And I will move that the Board of Education, pursuant to the terms of the Administrator's Retirement Plan, which seeks to recognize the value of a long-term commitment to the MMSD, approve the 3 applications.
Second.
Any discussion? Ahmad, your advisor vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 7-0. Okay, the next is the determination of capacity for the 2019-20 incoming open enrollment students. I will move that the Board of Education, in regard to open enrollment applications for the 2019-2020 school year, declare that the district has no space available in the LEAP, NEON, School-Based Alternatives, Next Step, SAIL East, SAIL West, Campus Connect, GVIP, Meadowood, and Early College STEM Academy programs.
Second.
Oh, there's
Sorry.
another sentence. I just a pause there. All other special education and regular education programs, services, and grade levels will have no space limitations.
Second.
Thank you, TJ. Nikki.
I understand the need to put our students first. At the same point, I see this as almost a cap to services of students coming in based on who moved into the neighborhood, who's moved into the district partway through. That's the way I've always seen it, and I respectfully understand that it's an incredibly tough program. It's incredibly hard to staff, and we need as many of our own students in, but I just cannot vote for it at this time.
Nikki, I think it might help for Matt to explain what...
That would be helpful.
Yeah, because I think this isn't about internal transfers, but open enrollment of students from a district outside of Madison. So do you want to explain that a little bit? Just want to make sure you understand.
Yeah, no, that would be helpful.
Yeah, so this is strictly for, as Jen said, open enrolled students. So this would be a non-Madison resident who is seeking to enter into one of the programs that we've listed in the motion. If, for example, you know, the example you gave is a student who moves into our district. Yeah. If a student moved into our district, they would have every right as every other student to any of these programs. That was my problem with it. And really, for the longest time, the board set no space limitations. Last year was the first year, and the reason being is that we were seeing that for some of these programs, there was waiting lists where resident students were not getting in, but students from, and I'm just going to pick some of our collar communities, from Sun Prairie, from McFarland, from Middleton, were getting in. And that's the reason for the space limitations. So I hope that clears that up.
Actually, that did a bit.
Teacher.
And we were also able to recoup costs in a different manner, because now all special education students, is $12,000 per student or something like that. And these programs have staffing ratios of 2 to 1, 4 to 1. Ones that, and we used to also be able to say excessive cost was a reason to do it, and we can no longer say that. So there's 5 or 6 things in play here. Right. But like Nikki, I hate to deny services to anyone in our community, even though if they don't live in MMSD, but we have to take care of our own first, and those are the people who live in our district.
Then I rescind my objection.
Okay, so Ahmad, your advisor vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes 7-0. And the last item is with regards to the appointment of additional 2018-19 hearing officers or officer, one officer. And so I will move that. Actually, this is not worded as a typical motion.
It gives you the statutory authority first, and then the motion to approve Ms. Markowski.
So can I just go straight to the motion?
I would prefer if you'd read the whereas part.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay, we'll start with the whereases then. Whereas Madison School Board Policy 4045 and the Wisconsin State Statute Section 120.13 sub 1 sub E provide that the Madison School Board herein after the board may adopt a resolution in which the board may authorize the use of an independent hearing officer appointed by the board to determine pupil expulsion from school, and whereas such resolution is only effective during the school year it is adopted, and whereas the board desires to adopt such resolution and use independent hearing officers to determine pupil expulsion from school for the 2018-19 school year. Should that be 19-20 school year?
No.
This is just for this school year. Thus far this school year, we've only had one hearing officer, so we're adding a second.
Okay, to determine the pupil expulsion from school for the 2018-19 school year. Therefore, I will move that the Board of Education hereby authorizes the use of an independent hearing officer for the 2018-19 school year to determine a pupil's expulsion from school, and be it further resolved that the following independent hearing examiner shall be appointed to the pool of examiners. And that name is Allison Markowski.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I just want to thank Matt for pursuing this, and it was hard to find someone, and I trust that you found someone good. That's it.
Yeah, I feel she's very, very well qualified, has a high degree of educational law knowledge, and I would just like to point out we've had no expulsions this year, which is fantastic, and so hopefully that will continue, but to have just one hearing officer is difficult.
Is unacceptable. So thank you, Matt.
Yeah, thank you. Ahmad, I'm sorry.
They have an arbitrator for expulsion of students, as some of the districts should do. Shouldn't pay somebody else out of the district.
Thank you. Ahmad, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes 7-0. So that ends our agenda. We don't have any other old or new business, so I will move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, Ahmad, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Good night.
Dean, take care of yourself. Dean, take care of yourself.